Being born as Dexter Morgan doesn't just ruin your life, it quietly signs death warrants for almost everyone who is unlucky enough to love you. Imagine you were just born, and before you can even say your own name, the universe has already decided that your future partners, your sister, your friends, your colleagues, are all walking toward a blood-stained exit. On paper, you are the fantasy, the cool vigilante who only kills bad guys, the serial killer with a code, a knife, and a conscience, the guy who stalks monsters so regular people can sleep. But then, the fantasy meets the bathroom floor. Rita in a bathtub, her blood mixing with bathwater, while your baby son screams in the same spot you once sat in your mother's blood. Debra in a hospital bed, brain dead, machines doing the work her body can't. Dokes blown apart in a cabin he never chose to enter. Lagerda bleeding out at the docks for the crime of doing her job too well. Suddenly, the hero image doesn't just crack, it shatters. This is the beginning of the end for the idea that Dexter's Code keeps people safe. Harry's rules say never kill an innocent and never get caught. They sound noble, they sound controlled. Yet as the years pass, the people who trust you, who think you are a brother, a boyfriend, a coworker, continue to die because your life is a gravitational field of violence. Your childhood trauma, your dark urges, and your refusal to stop killing pull predators toward you like a magnet. And predators never only eat what you intend to feed them. The thesis of this story is simple and brutal. Innocent people die precisely because you exist and keep choosing the dark passenger. Trinity only walks into Rita's house because you inserted yourself into his family. Deb only stands in front of Lagerto with a gun because you dragged her across moral lines she never would have crossed alone. Dokes only ends up chained in that cabin because he was right about you. Even when you are not the one holding the weapon, your double life loads the gun, aims it, and locks everyone you love inside the blast radius. But this isn't just a hit piece on Dexter. It's an autopsy of a life that sucks from birth. A toddler in a shipping container grows into a man who genuinely loves his sister, his son, even the idea of a normal family, and still destroys good people while trying to control the thing inside him. One day you realize that for you, love is not a safe feeling. It is a warning sign. So here is how this breakdown will work. You will begin at the origin of the curse, in that blood-soaked childhood. Then move season by season through every major innocent death that happens, because you keep killing and keep lying. Eventually, you will stand in Iron Lake, looking at Harrison, and ask the question this video ends on. Is Dexter Morgan actually morally better than the killers he hunts, or just better at pretending? Starting with one of the craziest truths about Dexter's success: every time you win, someone else pays the bill. On paper, you look untouchable. Respected blood spatter analyst, loyal brother, loving boyfriend, eventually husband and father, secretly an efficient serial killer of serial killers. For every moment you win, a cop's career implodes, a family is shattered, or some bystander is dragged into a war they never chose. One day, you solve a case. Another day, your victory headline is hiding the fact that a coworker died chasing the killer who was really chasing you. As the years pass, this pattern only hardens. You outsmart the Bay Harbor Butcher Task Force, but that success ends with James Dokes locked in a cage and blown to pieces, remembered as a monster you actually are. You keep hunting, and Maria LaGuerta dies on a dock, executed not for being corrupt, but for being right. You build a home with Rita, only for her to end up in a bathtub, her blood soaking the same son you swore to protect. You cling to Deborah as your moral anchor, and she ends up on an operating table, brain dead after a shooting set in motion by a killer you once chose to spare. This is the beginning of the end, replayed in different faces. So here's how this breakdown will continue. You are going to move through your life chronologically, not season by season of triumph, but death by death, of people who never asked to orbit your darkness. From your mother in that shipping container, to Dokes, to Rita, to Lagerda, to Debra, to the quiet civilians and background cops who only die because you exist and keep feeding your urges. To understand why it sucks to be born as Dexter Morgan and why it is lethal to stand near you, you have to go back to the first crime scene you ever saw, before the lab coat, before the code, before the first plastic sheet, back to a little boy in a shipping container, sitting in his mother's blood, staring at his brother. Because the first innocent person who dies because of you is the woman whose scream you can't remember, but whose death script you never stop reenacting. Imagine you were just born, and the universe decides your first real memory isn't your mother's face or your father's hands, but the sound of a chainsaw biting through flesh. You don't have language yet. You don't have Harry or a code or even the word blood. You just have red. You are in a metal box that hums with distant engines and closer screams. The air is wet and cold. Your feet slip when you try to stand, because you are sitting in a shallow lake of your mother's blood, and it's already starting to dry into a sticky film on your skin. It tugs at your clothes when you move. It glues your fingers together. The smell hits you next. Thick, metallic, it burns the back of your throat every time you breathe. Flies arrive before help does, buzzing in lazy circles over the pieces of the woman who just called you baby. Light slices in through the thin gaps in the container doors, sharp white blades cutting across the dark, turning dust and droplets into floating ghosts. Somewhere to your left, your brother is crying, high, hoarse, almost drowned out by the echo of what just happened. That sound lodges in your nervous system. You don't know the word family, but you know that voice. You reach for him, but your hands slide. You fall. Your palms slap into warm, congealing red. You cry harder. No one comes. Not yet. Time stretches in that box. Minutes feel like days because you have no way to measure them except hunger and fear. Your stomach cramps. Your throat is raw from screaming. Eventually, you stop making noise, not because moment. Safety is a lie. Love is temporary. Blood is permanent. Pattern interrupt. None of this is a cool origin scene for a vigilante. It's a toddler's nervous system being carved into a weapon. As the years pass, the memory will blur into flashes and nightmares, but the wiring stays. Your dark urges don't appear out of nowhere. They grow out of that metal floor, out of that smell, out of the silence after the chainsaws. Laura Moser is the first innocent person destroyed in your story, and you're too young to even say her name. Her death doesn't just take your mother. It takes your brother away from you. It hands you to a new family built on secrets, to a father who will look at this wound and decide to manage it instead of heal it. One day, every person who tries to love you will end up standing in some metaphorical version of that container. Light slicing in, hope leaking out, and you will continue reenacting this scene over and over without ever remembering the first time you lived it. So, you stay in that container, not for a scream, not for a scene, but for 3 full days that never really end. Imagine you were just born into a world where time made sense, where your mother's arms meant comfort and your brother's laugh meant safety. Then, suddenly, minutes stop behaving like minutes. They stretch, they fracture, they become weapons. The first hours, you cry until your throat burns. Your brother cries with you. Your mother does not answer. Her body is there, but your brain refuses to understand what that means yet. You slip in the blood when you try to crawl to her. It soaks your pajamas, your hands, your face. The copper smell becomes the air you breathe. You fall asleep in it because your body shuts down before your mind can. You wake up and nothing has changed. Same walls, same bodies, same red. You call for your mother, your father, anyone. No one comes. Time starts to warp. 5 minutes of silence feel like an hour. An hour feels like a day. Eventually, your voice gives out, so you just mouth the words, hoping the universe reads lips. As the years pass, you will talk about feeling empty, about not really having emotions the way other people do. But the blueprint for that isn't mysterious at all. It is here. Your brain looks at this unending terror and makes a decision. If feeling hurts this much, better not feel. So the fear dulls, the grief freezes. You begin to watch your own horror like it belongs to someone else. By day 2, you and your brother have run out of tears. You lie in parallel streaks of dried blood, too exhausted to move, half hallucinating from thirst and shock. You start counting drips from the ceiling, scratches on the metal, anything to anchor yourself. This is the beginning of the end of a normal nervous system. Your body learns that safety can vanish in a second and never come back. When the doors finally grind open, it doesn't feel like rescue. It feels like an alien abduction. Light slams into your eyes. Strange men in uniforms shout to each other. Hands grab under your arms and lift you out of the sticky red you've fused with. To them, you're a victim being saved. To your nervous system, it's just another violent, unpredictable shift in a world that only knows dangerous mirror. And underneath that, a pattern quietly locks into place. Love is temporary. Safety is fake. People vanish without warning. So you cling to the one thing you can control, not whether people die, but how. You will continue chasing that feeling of mastery over chaos, even if it means deciding who lives and who bleeds. Every innocent person who crosses your path later, every family that brushes against your darkness, is going to run into this 3-day lesson written into your bones. They will not know it, but they will be dying in that container with you. But then, the screaming stops. The chainsaws go quiet. The metal door swings open, and instead of your mother's face, you see a police badge and a man whose eyes look like they already failed you. Harry Morgan lifts you out of that blood, but he doesn't just see a victim. He sees a mistake, a case he didn't close, a woman he promised to protect and couldn't. From the first moment he holds you, you're not just a child in his arms, you're a debt he intends to pay for the rest of his life. Imagine you were just born into that kind of promise. On paper, it looks like salvation. A respected Miami cop adopts you, brings you into a clean suburban house with a trimmed lawn and a citrus tree in the yard. There are backyard barbecues with other officers, the smell of charcoal and beer, your new mother Doris laughing a little too loudly at Harry's jokes. Eventually, there's a baby sister, Deborah, who clings to you like you're the most interesting person in the world. From the outside, this is the dream. Birthday parties with clown decorations. Trip after trip to the beach, where the sun burns your shoulders, and your father pretends to relax under an umbrella. TV nights on the couch, your head leaning against Harry's side, while a crime drama plays, and he watches it with a strange, distant focus. It almost feels normal. But it never really is. Harry's hand flinches when you pick up a toy knife from a plastic kitchen set. His eyes linger too long when you stare at the red ketchup on your plate. You wake up in the middle of the night screaming, and suddenly both your parents are in the doorway, Harry breathing hard like he just ran from something, Doris asking what's wrong while Harry insists, too quickly, that it's nothing. They continue this dance for years, whispered arguments behind half-closed doors, Doris saying words like therapy and trauma, Harry shutting it down, promising he has it under control. As the years pass, your nightmares fade into a blank space, but the feeling doesn't. You know something is wrong with you long before you know what it is. No one tells you about the shipping container. No one mentions your biological mother or the brother who shared that floor with you and then vanished from your life. The truth is buried under Harry's guilt and Doris's desperate need to believe this family can be fixed with love and routine. This is the beginning of the end. By taking you in and hiding what really happened, your new father does more than save you. He decides that your darkness is his responsibility to manage. One day, that decision will spill out of this quiet house and into every corner of Miami, dragging innocent people into your orbit and turning Harry's private atonement into a mouth stretch, the way sound bursts out of them like it has a life of its own. A teacher notices. He's a quiet kid, she tells Harry during a conference, trying to sound positive. Very bright, just distant. You sit outside the office, staring at the pattern in the floor tiles, listening as Doris lowers her voice. Do you think something's wrong with him? She asks. There's a pause. Then Harry answers. He's been through a lot, like that sentence explains anything. No one in that room really understands what a lot means. At home, you continue playing your part. One night, Deborah wakes up from a bad dream and runs into your room, small arms wrapping around your chest. You feel her heartbeat hammering against you, the way her breath shudders. You lift a hand and mechanically pat her back, because that is what a good brother is supposed to do. But you are not scared. You are not relieved. You are only aware that she needs something you do not have. Eventually, that gap becomes a problem you have to solve. You stand in front of the bathroom mirror, practicing your smile, trying to angle your lips until the expression looks like the ones you see on TV. You rehearse reactions, widening your eyes, raising your eyebrows, saying things like, "That's great," or "I'm really sorry," until the words feel smooth in your mouth. You learn which phrases make adults relax, which nods convince teachers to stop asking if you're okay. One day, you realize this isn't a phase. The emptiness is not going away. It's starting to itch, a low, constant irritation under your skin. Little, dark urges flicker at the edge of your thoughts. When you imagine blood, the hum quiets for a second, and something like relief washes through you. Not horror, not guilt, just clarity. This is the beginning of the end of any hope that you are just shy or grieving. You are different, and you don't know why. All you know is that the only time you feel anything real is when you picture red on white, warm on your hands. And very soon, Harry is going to notice exactly what you keep imagining. Harry notices faster than you do. To you, it just feels like the next logical step. You're already numb, already drifting. Then, one day, you're riding in the back seat, watching the road, and you see a raccoon smashed on the asphalt. Most kids look away. You lean forward. You ask your father to pull over. On the surface, it is curiosity. A future blood spatter analyst fascinated by impact patterns. But when you kneel beside the roadkill and peel back the fur with a stick, something moves in your chest. Not disgust, not fear. Calm, the smell is thick, the body still faintly warm, and you realize that cutting something open doesn't repel you. It centers you. As the years pass, those moments begin to stack up. An injured bird in the yard, ants swarming over its eyes, a stray cat clipped by a car, still twitching. You find reasons to stay, to watch, to study how life leaks out. The urges arrive quietly at first, like a pressure behind your ribs, a low buzzing in your skull that won't shut off until you see red. You don't decide to think these thoughts. They happen to you. They push through you. you start testing the edge of that pressure. A mouse in a trap. A neighborhood dog that never comes home. Your mother assumes your father accidentally hits with the car. A rabbit that doesn't survive the neighbor's dog. You take a tiny slide of blood each time, stolen from the chaos of injured animals and hidden in a small box under your bed. It is a child's version of control, a proto-ritual. Neat, ordered, private, your first trophies. Then comes the pattern interrupt. One afternoon, you realize you are disappointed when it's only an animal. You catch yourself fantasizing about what a human artery might look like when it opens. That thought does not horrify you. It soothes you. This is the beginning of the end of pretending these urges are harmless. The pressure is building. Your ability to fake normal is starting to crack. And Harry is running out of denial. Very soon, his choice will not be between a good son and a bad one. It will be between turning you in or teaching you how to kill in a way he can live with. And that decision will drag countless innocent people into your shadow. So when the first real kill finally comes, it doesn't look like a master plan. It looks petty. It sounds like barking. Relentless, high-pitched, drilling into your skull every night until sleep feels like a rumor. As the years pass, Harry keeps telling you to breathe, to ignore it, to be patient. But the sound will not stop. Outside your window, inside your head. One night, you stop pretending patience. The house is quiet, your mother asleep, your father on shift. You slip out the back door with a kitchen knife, bare feet sinking into damp grass. The neighbor's dog throws itself at the fence, teeth flashing, throat straining. You stand there, just watching, feeling your chest tighten, feeling those urges begin to hum. Then, suddenly, they don't feel like urges. They feel like instructions. You climb the fence. Your hands move before your thoughts catch up. Second person becomes literal. You watch your own fingers grab the collar. You watch the blade rise. There is a yelp cut short. Warmth sprays across your knuckles. The barking stops. Completely. The night air is still. And for the first time since the shipping container, the world feels sharp and in focus. No static. No confusion. Just quiet. You stay there longer than you need to, kneeling in the mud, feeling the weight of the limp body, the heat leaking away into your palms. There is no guilt, no panic, just a strange, clean relief, like scratching an itch that has been under your skin since you were covered in your mother's blood. Eventually, you wipe the knife on the grass, drag the small carcass to a dark corner behind the shed, and cover it with loose boards. It feels methodical. It feels right. The next morning, there are muddy footprints by the back door. Your shoes, rinsed but not rinsed well enough. Missing dog posters go up on telephone poles. The neighbor cries on the porch, voice cracking as she calls the dog's name. You stand there, too calm, offering the correct words with the wrong face. No tremble, no tears, just empty politeness. Harry notices. One day, he follows the trail you tried to erase. The disturbed dirt, the faint smell, the board that doesn't sit quite flush. He lifts it, and there it is, the stiff body, the cutthroat, the evidence that his rescued son or teach you how to kill without leaving bodies like this ever again. So Harry makes his choice. Not the official channels. Not doctors, not institutions, not a locked ward where your urges are studied and medicated until you disappear into a file. He looks at the boy he rescued from a blood-soaked container and decides that if the system ever touches you, it will chew you up, label you a monster, and maybe execute you. Imagine you were just born into that kind of fear, except it arrives late, when your father finally sees what you really are. As the years pass, he has watched the warning signs continue, the missing animals, the blank way you talk about death, The way your mother's murder lives in your eyes even when you cannot name it. He knows the cops he works with, the jokes, the brutality. He pictures you in a cell, or on a table, or in an electric chair. So one day, he rewrites the story for you. Instead of saying you are evil, he tells you your need to kill can be used for good. Your dark urges are not a curse. They are a tool, a weapon. He kneels beside you in that car and says, if you have to do this, then you will only do it to men worse than you. Predators, murderers who slip through the cracks he has spent his whole life chasing. This is the beginning of the end, because now the killing is no longer an accident or a phase. It is a project. Harry begins to carve the code into you. Never get caught. Never kill an innocent. Study your target. Gather evidence until there is no doubt. Plastic on the floor, tools laid out. A ritual that keeps you careful and calm while your victim stares at the trophies of their own crimes. On the surface, it is almost noble. A father training his broken son to hunt the monsters who destroyed his mother and family. Harry believes he is saving lives, that every killer you remove is one less dead child, one less Rita, one less Deb bleeding out in an alley somewhere. The irony is brutal. To prevent you from ending up behind bars, he teaches you to become the Bay Harbor Butcher. What he cannot predict is the blast radius. Every rule that keeps you from prison also forces you deeper into lies. Every body you wrap in plastic creates new chances for someone innocent to notice something, to ask the wrong question, to die, because they got close. Eventually, your double life drags people like Rita, Dokes, LaGuerta, even Harrison into crosshairs they never chose. Harry thinks the code will protect innocence, but it becomes the engine that pulls them into danger. And the first time you follow it all the way through on a human being, you prove just how deadly his decision really is. So when Harry finally says yes, when he decides the urges can't be caged any longer, it feels less like a choice and more like gravity. You have been training for this night without fully admitting it, pretending that theory and practice can stay separate forever. As the years pass, your father stops taking you to the zoo and starts taking you to crime scenes. He pulls the tape back for you, quietly, like sharing a secret. You watch blood dry on pavement. You listen as he explains how a killer moves, how a mother never saw it coming, how a family is shattered in a single night. The lesson slides in under your skin. Some people deserve to die, and someone has to do it. Eventually, those routines feel your pulse slow instead of spike. Planning is calming. It feels like finally scratching that itch. The night you act, the world narrows. You rent a space. You line it in plastic until it looks like a crime scene paused before the crime. The plastic wrap crinkles under your shoes, loud in the empty room. Every step a reminder that there is no going back. You set out your tools with surgical care. You rehearse Harry's words in your head. Make sure, be certain, never an innocent. Then he wakes up, taped to the table, eyes wild, trying to talk his way out of a life he ruined himself. You show him the photos Harry showed you. You listen to his denials, but the code has already decided. Harry's voice is in your ears, steady, almost proud, guiding your hands to the right spot. As the knife goes in, there is no thunderclap revelation, just a rush of clarity, a sudden quiet in your skull. The chaos of your urges lines up, like they've been waiting for this exact motion. Relief floods you. This is what you were built for. The code doesn't feel like a prison tonight. It feels like salvation. You take a blood sample because Harry told you to document your work, but the moment the slide fills, something else clicks. This is proof, yes, but it is also a souvenir. A way to visit this feeling later, in private. Imagine you were just born for this, a life where your identity is pressed between glass and blood. This is the beginning of the end. On this table, no one innocent dies. On this night, the code seems to protect everyone it should, but every neighbor who will one day be stalked, every friend who will be framed, every mother and brother and child who will bleed because your double life attracts monsters, all of them trace back here. To the moment you and Harry agreed that killing is how you continue to live. And once you feel that relief, the idea of stopping becomes the most dangerous fantasy of all, so you cling to the code, because stopping feels more terrifying than killing. And right when that bargain begins to feel solid, life rips away the one person who might have offered you a different story. Doris gets sick slowly, then all at once. As the years pass, the hospital becomes your second home. Fluorescent lights, the beeping of monitors, the smell of antiseptic that never quite covers the fear. Debra sobs in the hallway, little fists pressed into her eyes, swearing she's not crying, even as her whole body shakes. Harry stands beside your mother's bed, jaw clenched, pretending to be the unbreakable father. You stand on the other side, looking at her sunken face, the tubes, the bruised arms. You know you should be devastated. Mostly, you feel nothing. You study the heart monitor like it's a lab experiment. You count the breaths. You note how her skin grows paler each visit, how the nurses avoid saying the word terminal. You mimic Deborah's expressions, lean in when she leans in, squeeze your mother's hand when Harry does. You perform grief, because that is what a good son does. Inside, there is only that familiar, dark stillness, the same emptiness you felt in the shipping container, just colder now. But there was a time before the machines and the morphine. One day, you remember Harry in the kitchen, down. The talks about blood slides and crime scenes come more often. The hunting trips stop being about bonding and begin to feel like tactical training. The house changes temperature. It stops feeling like a family home and starts feeling like a staging area with bedrooms attached. Without Doris, no one in that house looks at you and sees potential for healing. Harry's narrative becomes the only one left. You are dangerous, you can never be cured, you can only be managed. Imagine you were just born into that verdict, replayed every day until it sinks into your bones. This is the beginning of the end of any belief that love might rewire you. Eventually, that has a body count. Because once you accept that only the dark passenger understands you, every loss like this shoves you closer to it. The more you depend on the code, the more you'll lie, hide, and manipulate to protect it. And when your secret demands a sacrifice, it will not always choose the guilty. So when innocent people start dying to keep you hidden, the trail doesn't just lead back to Harry. It leads to the empty side of your mother's bed, and the silence where her voice used to say, "You are more than the darkness." With your mother gone and Doris gone, the code becomes the only lullaby left. But lullabies don't argue back. They don't tell you when you've gone too far. They just continue in your head the way you remember them. And memory is very easy to edit when your survival depends on it. As the years pass, Harry's body wears down while your urges sharpen. He sees you in the kill room now, not just in theory, but in fluorescent reality. Plastic everywhere, steel table, a man begging. You calm, efficient, almost peaceful. That is the moment your father understands the scale of what he has built. Not a safety valve, a system, a factory line for death that only you can run. You notice it in his eyes, the way he suddenly can't look at the blood the same way, the way his voice shakes when he tells you to clean up faster, to be more careful. He realizes the code hasn't contained anything. It has given your darkness a language, a ritual, a reason. And if he wrote the scripture, then everybody is on his conscience. Imagine you were just born, and the one person who saved you from that shipping container slowly realizes he might have only delayed the slaughter. That is Harry's private horror. Every time he watches you wrap another room, every time he sees how calm you are afterward, he sees your mother's body on the floor again. Only now, he is the one holding the saw. Eventually, his guilt and his heart catch up to him. The show leaves space for interpretation, but whether it is a heart attack from stress or a quiet suicide driven by shame, the result is the same. One day, Harry is simply gone. No more late-night talks in the car. No more last-minute warnings. Your only real guide disappears. And all that remains is a list of rules with no living conscience attached. This is the beginning of the end. First your mother in the blood, then your brother ripped away, then Doris, the one who saw softness in you. Now Harry, the architect of your entire identity. Every authority figure who might have steered you differently either dies, leaves, or breaks under the weight of your existence. You are abandoned again and again, until abandonment feels like destiny. Without Harry, the code stops being a conversation. But how many and how close to home? From the outside, you finally look fixed. Miami Metro's golden technician. Blood spatter analyst with a pressed shirt and a polite nod for everyone in the bullpen. You joke with Masuka, you grab coffee with Batista, you play the quiet. Reliable brother, whenever Debra storms into the room, cursing at your latest crime scene. On paper, you are the safest man in the building. Underneath, you are a hunting pattern, wrapped in human skin. Every day, your job hands you exactly what your dark urges crave. Photos of bodies, access to databases, the intimate geometry of violence. You stand in pools of blood, explaining impact angles to your colleagues, while secretly using the same information to decide who deserves your table. As the years pass, the line between analysis and opportunity stops existing. Work is scouting. Commute is surveillance. Night is ritual. Imagine you were just born into this life already pre-written by day, a man who interprets blood by night. A man who spills it. Harry's code tells you that this is controlled, ethical, necessary. You tell yourself that every kill protects your family, your city, your mother's memory. But the code never mentions what happens to the people standing next to you when the monsters you chase start looking back. Your cover is perfect precisely because it is dangerous. You are embedded in the system that hunts people like you. That means you hear about predators before anyone else. It also means those predators, the investigations around them, and your own secret cleanup jobs all unfold in the middle of very real, very innocent lives. Coworkers who trust you, neighbors who wave at you, a single mother named Rita who thinks you are safe because you seem uninterested in sex. One day, you begin narrating your life to yourself like a nature documentary. You watch Debra pacing, Dokes glaring, Lagerda scheming, as if they are separate species in a habitat you only observe. You describe your brother, your girlfriend, your fellow officers in clinical terms. Cataloging tells and weaknesses the way other people catalog memories. This distance feels protective. It makes it easier to move them around your mental chessboard. It also makes it easier to forget that chess pieces bleed. Statistically, being close to you becomes a death sentence. Not always immediately. Sometimes it is trauma, like the way Debra will eventually unravel when she learns who you really are. Sometimes it is being framed, like Dokes. Crushed under the weight of the Bay Harbor Butcher case, you redirect onto him. Sometimes it is literal, like Rita in her bathtub, or LaGuerta in a shipping container, both pulled into the blast radius of choices they never made. This is the beginning of the end for anyone who gets too near. Every promotion you earn, every date night you schedule, every stakeout you run with a partner quietly increases their odds of being shattered, exiled, or buried. And the terrifying part is that many of them will die without ever knowing that the common factor in their destruction was you. Because from here, the names start. Dokes, Rita, LaGuerta, Deborah, and others you barely notice, until their bodies, on paper, Harry's code should protect them. No innocence, never get caught, keep your urges pointed at the monsters, and your personal life stays clean. But the mechanics are rigged against you from the start. To kill, you have to lie. To hunt, you have to stalk. To keep the mask on, you have to manipulate everyone who loves you, over and over, until your life is a maze of half-truths and missing hours. As the years pass, that maze attracts something else. Enemies, smarter, crueler, more unhinged versions of you. They follow your tracks, notice your patterns, and eventually realize what every hunter realizes. You don't have to hit the wolf, you hit the den. So, Rita dies in a bathtub she never earned. A mother who thinks her biggest problem is your late nights and vague explanations, suddenly left bleeding out because you decided to infiltrate Trinity's life instead of walking away. Trinity doesn't even know her. He knows you. Killing her is his way of shattering the illusion that you can have a family and a dark passenger and keep them separate. Deborah is shot in the gut because she loves you more than she loves the law. One day, she was just a cop chasing promotions and your approval. Then she's covering for your crimes, lying to her own department, and standing between you and LaGuerta. The bullet that drops her isn't just from a killer, it's from every compromise you pushed her into. Even people who only threaten your mask get dragged under. Dokes is too good at his job, too sharp to be fooled by your awkward charm. So you frame him. Suddenly, he's the Bay Harbor butcher, his life and reputation burned so your secret can continue. He's not killed by your hand, but his destruction is still written in your handwriting. Pattern interrupt. Imagine you were just born into this story as Harrison. You don't choose your father, you don't choose your mother's death, your kidnappings, or the caregivers who disappear because your presence is leverage against him. This is the beginning of the end for everyone close to you. They think they're living normal lives until they discover, too late, that their brother, boyfriend, coworker is the epicenter of a hidden war. And before you can count the bodies, you have to face the first innocent life your unresolved past almost destroys, your own sister, Deborah, in Season 1. So when Brian Moser steps back into your life, it isn't as a brother with open arms. It's as the ice truck killer, a phantom leaving bodies all over Miami. To everyone else, he's just another monster. To you, without knowing it yet, he's your missing half. The boy from the blood-soaked container who grew up without Harry, without a code, and decided the only way to reach you was through murder. Imagine you were just born into that shipping container. Your mother is butchered in front of you. Your brother is screaming beside you. As the years pass, your mind does what it has to do to survive. It walls off the memory, buries Brian with the bodies, and lets Harry rewrite your story. You continue forward as Dexter Morgan, blood spatter analyst, dutiful son. But your repression doesn't erase Brian. It just leaves him alone with his own dark urges. Eventually, those urges crystallize into a campaign. Every dismembered corpse, every carefully arranged scene is a twisted love letter to your forgotten childhood. He drains bodies of blood like the container drained your mother. He leaves. Deborah wakes up strapped to a table in a plastic-wrapped kill room, the same ritual space you use to feed your own needs. Brian isn't just going to kill her. He's staging a ceremony. He wants you to watch, to accept him, to let Deborah's blood be the bond that seals the brothers back together. Your past and your present are tied down on the same table, and you are the one forced to choose. Here's the causal chain no one in your family ever sees. If Harry had told you about Brian, if your father had let you confront that container before it turned into nightmares and nosebleeds, you might have recognized the pattern earlier. If you had known your brother existed, maybe the doll parts and the drained bodies wouldn't feel like random puzzles. Maybe Deborah never ends up with a knife at her throat because of a man who only exists in your life's blind spot. Deborah lives. You save her. The plastic comes down, the ritual fails, and Brian dies instead of her. But that doesn't erase what almost happened. This is the beginning of the end for the illusion that your darkness is contained. Your unresolved trauma and Harry's secrets have already brought your sister within inches of death. And this is only the first time an innocent person pays for what you refuse to face. That first near loss of your sister proves something brutal. Anyone who sees you clearly is stepping into a kill zone. And no one sees you more clearly, more relentlessly, than Sergeant James Dokes. He is the nightmare your dark passenger never planned for, because he is not corrupt, not incompetent, not blind. He is a good cop who is right about you from day one. From the beginning, Dokes feels it. You smile, you joke, you pretend to be harmless. He just stares. I don't like you. That's it. His instincts, sharpened by war and police work, cut straight through your mask. As the years pass inside Miami Metro, other detectives grow comfortable around you. Dokes continues to circle. He watches your empty reactions at crime scenes. He notices how you are always just a little too close to the blood. Imagine you were just born into a family where the only person who truly understands what you are is your adoptive father, and his solution is to teach you to hide. Then someone like Dokes walks in. He doesn't know about your mother, your brother, the shipping container, or Harry's code. He just knows that you are wrong. So he tails you. He follows your car at night. He catches you in lies about where you have been. One day, he finds the thing no one is ever supposed to see, your blood slides. That tiny wooden box is your entire secret life, distilled into trophies. To you, they are proof that you follow rules, that you only kill monsters. To Dokes, they are evidence. Suddenly, the hunt flips. He is no longer just suspicious. He is certain. He confronts you, and the chase leads to that remote cabin, the place where your two worlds smash together. There, this good cop, this man doing his job, becomes your prisoner. You could confess. You could stop. You could accept the cage that should have always been yours. Instead, you continue Harry's logic. Protect the secret at any cost. You lock Dokes up. You plan to frame him as the Bay Harbor butcher, to pour all your sins into his file, and walk that crater you have made. Something even worse steps in, Lila. Imagine you were just born into a life where chaos feels like oxygen. That is Lila, your sponsor turned lover. An arsonist whose mother and father never taught her how to sit with pain, only how to burn it away. She does not fear your dark urges. She romanticizes them. She wants to be the only person who truly understands you, the patron saint of your monstrosity. As the years pass, you keep most people outside the blast radius of your real self. But with Leela, you do something different. You begin to let her in emotionally. You talk about emptiness, about the void where normal feelings should be. You let her see your shame. It feels intoxicating to have someone say your darkness is not a curse, it is a gift. Suddenly, the thing that isolates you becomes the thing she worships. This is the beginning of the end. Because the second you give Leela that access, she becomes possessive. She studies Rita the way you study a victim. She hears the word family and translates it as competition. Your girlfriend, her kids, your fragile attempt at normalcy all become obstacles to be cleared. Leela does not want to heal your wounds. She wants exclusive rights to them. Eventually, she finds the one secret that should never have been touched. One day, she follows the threads you left behind and discovers the cabin, the plastic, Dokes in the cage. She sees your trophies. She sees your work. And instead of recoiling, she understands exactly what this means. You are the Bay Harbor Butcher. Harry's Code, your rules, your careful separation between innocent and guilty, all of it is laid bare. Her response is simple. She lights a match, she rigs the place to blow, and walks away while Dokes is still alive inside, terrified and helpless. In her mind, she is performing the ultimate act of love, clearing your biggest threat, erasing the one man who saw you clearly, so you can continue killing without fear. Dokes dies screaming, not because he broke any law of Harry's, but because Lila wants to prove she deserves you. But the universe is not done escalating your punishment. When you try to pull back to return to Rita and the children, Lila decides to make her devotion louder. She breaks into their apartment at night. Astor and Cody are asleep, innocent, dreaming kid dreams. Lila turns on the stove, spills accelerant, and sets the home on fire around them. Two children who only know you as the quiet man who makes them breakfast. Almost die choking on smoke because a grown woman wants your undivided attention. Lila is a killer in her own right. Yet the reason Dokes dies and those kids nearly burn is not her alone. They are targeted specifically because of their proximity to your secret life. That is the pattern you continue dragging forward. Anyone who gets close enough to see you or to give you a chance at being human ends up marked for death. That pattern continues in the quietest place of all, your own living room. Because if Leela is chaos, Rita is the illusion of safety that lets you continue being dangerous. Rita is not naive. She is a mother of two, a survivor of an abusive husband who used his fists and his rage instead of scalpels and plastic wrap. Not safe from you, but safe for you. Traumatized enough not to press too hard, normal enough to make you look like a real boyfriend, then a real husband, then a real father. As the years pass, Rita becomes your human costume. School events, barbecues, couple dinners. Every smiling photo is a piece of evidence you use to argue to the world and to yourself that you can be good. But the warning signs are there from the beginning. You vanish at odd hours with flimsy explanations, a late night at work, a case that ran long. You miss her important moments, like the night she needs you after confronting Paul, or when she is overwhelmed with the kids. Your apologies sound like lines you practiced in the car. Because they are. She feels the distance. She just explains it away. She tells herself your mother must have hurt you. She decides your quiet is shyness, your flat affect is tenderness, your secrecy is respect for boundaries, her lens is forgiveness, and you exploit it without even needing to plan it. Eventually, your need for a cover life turns Rita into a prop. Date nights are alibis. Vacations are strategic cool-down periods between kills. Even your proposal, tender on the surface, is also a move to lock in the role you play. She invests real love, real trust, real dreams. You invest plausibility. This is the beginning of the end. Every time you choose to maintain the illusion instead of telling her the truth, you push her closer to a danger she cannot see. Trinity will not suddenly appear in her bathroom out of nowhere. He will arrive through a chain of choices you make, starting with this. You let Rita fall in love with a man who does not exist. One day, that gap between who you are and who she thinks you are will fill with blood. Hers, you think Rita's blood will be the worst proof that your double life poisons innocence. But long before Trinity walks into your family home, you perform a different experiment. one that shows just how fragile Harry's precious code really is. You share it. Miguel Prado steps into your world as everything you are not allowed to be: a powerful assistant district attorney, loud, charismatic, a golden son of Miami with a respected family name. On the surface, he is justice in a suit. Underneath, he is rage in a very expensive tie. One day, you help him get what the system never gave him: a dead killer who will never see a courtroom. That shared kill feels like a shortcut to the connection you have always craved. Imagine you were just born with a hole in your chest, where normal people keep their empathy. As the years pass, you watch your mother, your father, your brother figures connect through ordinary love, while your only real intimacy is with your dark urges. Now, suddenly, there is someone who looks at that darkness and calls it righteous. You begin to open up, carefully at first, then with a hunger you do not recognize. You let Miguel see your rituals, your plastic, your knives. You talk about rules, about only targeting those who deserve it, about never getting caught. You are not just confiding, you are teaching, training, passing down a gospel that was supposed to die with you. This is the beginning of the end for the illusion that the code is safe, because Miguel is not you. He does not have Harry's years of drilling, and it is not just the bodies, it is the noise. Miguel's recklessness draws attention from law enforcement, from the streets, from Miami's legal community. An assistant district attorney vanishing witnesses, intimidating suspects, and leaving strange forensic echoes where there should be none destabilizes the entire justice system you pretend to support. Cases collapse. Real criminals walk. Innocent people end up exposed, unprotected, or wrongly suspected because the rules are being rewritten in blood. You manage Miguel, then you eliminate him, but you cannot erase what his existence proves. The moment you share or bend the code, the risk to innocence multiplies, and you do not stop. Lumen, Hannah, every new partner is another Miguel waiting to happen. The next time you let someone into that secret room, the collateral will not just be strangers, it will be your own family. So when you open that secret room again, it is not just another experiment. It is a full-scale field test in how much chaos your life can generate. Miguel was a warning. The Barrel Girl case is what happens when you ignore that warning and continue anyway. Imagine you were just born into a world where metal walls mean death. Years later, you walk into a swamp and find it again. Dozens of women, kidnapped, raped, tortured, murdered, dissolved, and crammed into barrels, stacked like a warehouse of human waste. Suddenly, the shipping container from your childhood is back, only bigger, louder, and filled with every scream you ever tried to bury. That's the Barrel Girl case. A group of men who treat women as disposable objects, who turn storage units and abandoned sites into industrial kill rooms. Your mother died in a pool of blood on plastic. Their victims die in plastic coffins. Of course, this case hooks into your nervous system. Of course, your dark urges hum louder. You are not just hunting them. You are staring into a grotesque mirror. Then, one day, the mirror moves. Lumen steps out of a kill scene, not as a body in a barrel, but as a survivor. She has been tortured by the same men you are tracking. She is raw terror and shaking rage in human form. And she looks at you the way Rita once did, the way your mother never got to, like you might be the only person who can make the monsters stop. You let her in. You teach her the ritual. You turn her revenge into an off-brand version of the code. Except, this time, the goal is not just preventing future victims. It is emotional compensation. It is therapy by dismemberment. Eventually, you are killing with her, not only because they deserve it, but because she needs it, and you need her. And once again, the perimeter around your secret life explodes. You are sneaking lumen into crime scenes. You are building kill rooms in rented houses, in empty tourist properties, in places with neighbors who could walk by at any second. Quinn is already suspicious. Deborah is working the Barrel Girl task force, law enforcement into your orbit and turning them into accomplices. In this arc, no major named innocent dies directly because of your actions. On paper, the body count is all guilty, but the environment you create is pure collateral terror. Neighbors hear screams and do not understand. Bystanders live next door to torture houses and never know how close they came. Your coworkers chase a case that you are actively contaminating, and every close call edges them toward a bullet or a blade. As the years pass, this becomes a pattern. Lumen is the prototype for what you will do with Hannah. And beyond, find a woman as broken as you feel. Invite her into the blood, gamble her life and everyone around her on your ability to stay one step ahead. This is the beginning of the end for any hope that your love life will be anything but a crime scene. Because once you prove you can share the table, the question is not whether someone innocent will die. It is when and how close to your family it will be. You think you can control the blood if you choose where it goes. You think the code makes you safe, makes your family safe. Then you meet Arthur Mitchell, and every illusion you have about being a good monster begins to crack. On paper, Arthur should be simple. A prolific serial killer. A perfect fit for Harry's rules. Confirm the pattern. Confirm the guilt. End it. Instead, you hesitate. You don't just stalk him. You move into his life. You insert yourself as Kyle Butler, the helpful friend, because you are obsessed with one question. How can a man be both a devoted father and a meticulous butcher of strangers? As the years pass, Harry's voice is supposed to be the loudest in your head. But with Trinity, another voice creeps in. Curiosity, envy. You watch Arthur with his wife, his son, his daughter, and you begin to treat him like a twisted mentor. You study his rituals, his secrets, his double life, as if understanding him might fix the fracture between your dark urges and your desire to be a husband and father. You continue the game instead of ending the threat. Every extra day you spend learning from Arthur is another day he keeps killing. More women in bathtubs, more shattered families. You even help him in your own way by stopping him from jumping to his death so you can keep your experiment alive. Imagine you were just born into Rita's quiet, hopeful suburb, believing your husband leaves early for work, not for stalking a monster who is stalking you back. Eventually, the experiment ends the only way it can. You finally put Arthur on your table and carve his confession out of him. You feel victorious, righteous. You followed the code, eventually. You come home, expecting a normal night in your blood-free house. Then you hear it, a baby crying, Harrison. The sound pulls you down the hallway like a replay of your own origin. The bathroom door is open, light on tile, water still. You step in and your life stops. Rita is in the bathtub, naked, almost certainly would not exist. Your ego killed her. Your fascination killed her. The part of you that wanted to see if a killer could also be a family man handed your own family to a predator. So can you still pretend you are a force for good when the woman who believed in your goodness dies screaming in a bathtub you failed to keep clean? And if loving you means reenacting your trauma, how many more people are already marked for that same red fate? Rita dies in a copy of your origin scene, and the universe does not wait long to double down, because the blood in that bathtub is not just your wife's, it is your son's inheritance. Imagine you were just born into this story. You never get a clean slate. You are found sitting in your mother's blood, crying in a bathroom, the same way your father once screamed in a shipping container. Different killer, different decade, same red imprint burned into a baby's nervous system. This is the beginning of the end, and you cannot even hold your own head up. Your first memories are not of lullabies. They are of absence. Your mother is a ghost no one wants to talk about. Your father is there, but not really. He holds you, feeds you, changes you, yet his eyes drift away like he is always listening to someone else in the room. A dark passenger you cannot see, but you can feel in the way his arms tense when you cry. As the years pass, your family becomes a revolving door. Astor and Cody pulled away to grandparents, babysitters, neighbors, Deb, anyone who can help. Cycling through because your father keeps attracting danger, like metal to a magnet. One day, you are in a sunny Miami house. Suddenly, you are in a new apartment. Then, a different neighborhood. No one explains why the adults whisper when they think you are asleep. Dexter's guilt over Rita begins to run your life before you can spell your own name. He overcorrects, promising himself he will be a better father than Harry, that you will not be raised in lies and blood. But he continues to kill. So, your bedtime stories come with unexplained bruises on his knuckles, late-night disappearances, and a father who tells you that monsters are real while pretending he is not one of them. You grow up in a house where violence is always off-screen, yet always humming in the walls. You see news reports about the Bay Harbor butcher, about serial killers that somehow orbit your father's job. You hear Deb curse about near-death experiences and crazy cases. You notice how often you move right after something terrible happens. You begin to understand that secrets are the family tradition. Eventually, the early signs start to show. You hit another kid a little too hard. You stare at blood a little too long. You feel urges you cannot name, and the only person who might understand is the least honest man in your life. The contradiction at the center of your existence tightens. A father who says he loves you, yet keeps choosing the knife over the nursery. So when you reappear years later in Iron Lake with your own darkness and your own questions, it is not a twist. It is a delayed reaction. The second generation echo of a baby in a bathroom, finally old enough to ask what really happened in all that blood. And when you demand answers, your father will have to choose which legacy you inherit next. As the years pass, that faith becomes the foundation of her whole identity. She wants to be a better detective, a better daughter, a better protector than your father ever was. You are her compass. The tragedy is that her compass is secretly spinning over a pit. One day, the mask slips. She walks in on you with Travis Marshall on the kill table, and suddenly, the brother she trusted is the Bay Harbor butcher she hunted. This is the beginning of the end. In that instant, her world should snap back to the law she swore to uphold. Instead, she does the unthinkable. She helps you burn the church. She protects you. From there, the corruption is not a jump. It is a slow descent. She starts by rationalizing one crime, then another. She lies in reports. She nudges witnesses. She covers for your late nights and your missing evidence. Eventually, she is sitting in a shipping container with Lagerta at gunpoint, realizing the only way to save you is to murder an innocent woman who has done nothing wrong except tell the truth. The psychological toll is immediate and brutal. Debra, the cop who used to kick down doors without blinking, begins having panic attacks in her car. She drinks herself sick, wakes up shaking, avoids mirrors because she cannot stand the person looking back. Your dark urges have never touched her skin, but they live in her bloodstream now. She knows she is orbiting something poisonous and cannot pull away. Pattern interrupt. Imagine you were just born as Deb, not Dexter. Same mother, same father, same blood. But instead of a code, you get a lie. You grow up worshiping a brother who is secretly building you into his alibi. Your presence warps every choice she makes. Promotions she earns on merit become platforms for your cover. Cases that should define her career turn into elaborate exercises in protecting you. Instead of chasing her own future, she spends her nights cleaning up your messes, lying to Quinn, defying Batista, walking willingly into danger that was never hers to face. So when Oliver Saxon's bullet finally tears through her, it is almost an afterthought. By then, her career is shattered, her moral center is gone, and her sense of self has been hollowed out by years in your shadow. Her physical death is just the paperwork. Spiritually, professionally, Dexter Morgan died the moment she chose you over everything she once believed in. And the next innocent who steps that close will face the same choice. And the next innocent who steps that close will face the same choice. The cruelest example is the one person in that department who is actually right about you from the very beginning of her suspicions. In a world where your lies usually win, Maria Laguerta is the rare cop whose instincts cut through the fog. That is exactly why she has to die. You remember her introduction as a political creature, ambitious, media-savvy, always working the angles. It is easy to dismiss her as shallow office politics in heels. But as the years pass, you see something else under the polish, a real cop who cares about cases, victims, and the truth, even when it threatens her career. When the Bay Harbor butcher investigation ends with James Dokes in a body bag, LaGuerta is the only one who refuses to construct timelines. He notices the pattern of the slides, the way they mirror the Bay Harbor butcher's trophies. She follows your boat records, your crime scene access, the uncanny overlap between where you are and where monsters vanish. While your family, your mother figure, your father's memory all protect the image of you as the reliable blood guy. LaGuerta continues to peel it back until only the butcher remains. Eventually, she does what no one else has done. She says your name out loud. Dexter Morgan. Not as friend, as suspect. She confronts Debra, pushes against the institutional wall of denial, and still does not back down. So you drag her into your world the only way you know how. A setup at the shipping yard, a planted body, a trap meant to make her look like she is framing you. It fails. She is still standing, still right. So you escalate to the dock. Night, oil drums, a gun in her hand, a syringe in yours. You wake up in chains. She thinks she finally has you, and then Debra appears like a ghost between two lives. You twist the scene so that your sister is no longer a cop, just a cornered animal choosing between her brother and her boss. LaGuerta begs her to shoot you. You tell Deb the only way out is to kill LaGuerta. When Deb pulls the trigger, LaGuerta's death is not some isolated tragedy. It is the bill for everything. If you had not framed Dokes, she would never have reopened the case. If you had stopped killing, there would be no fresh slides to follow. If you had confessed, she would not be standing on a dock with a bullet in her chest. She dies not because she is corrupt, but because she is correct. In your orbit, that is a capital offense, and she will not be the last innocent to pay it. LaGuerta dies for being right, and you walk away breathing. But the blast wave from that dock doesn't stop with her body. It keeps moving, through the bullpen, through the people who still call you friend, until even the survivors start looking like the walking wounded. Take Joey Quinn. As the years pass, he goes from sleazy, half-serious detective to the one person in the room who actually looks at you and thinks something is off. He notices the cash, the blood slides, the way your stories never quite line up. He begins pulling at the loose threads of your life, and suddenly his entire world starts to fray instead. He falls for your sister, Deborah, right as her own moral compass is spinning out because of you. Imagine you were just born into that squad, watching your uncle figure out that the guy bringing donuts might be a monster. Quinn gets close to the truth, digs into Kyle Butler, follows the Bay Harbor Butcher trail when everyone else wants to move on. What does he get for being right? Not closure. Not justice. Just pressure to shut up. Your family pulls rank. Debra freezes him out to protect you. Evidence disappears. His investigation quietly dies, and with it, a piece of his integrity. Quinn drinks more, gambles more. His career stalls, while less talented detectives pass him by. He is not killed, but the version of him that believed the system could work is gone. This is the beginning of the end for his faith in anything. Not all casualties are corpses. Some are detectives whose promotions never happen because they pushed the wrong question about you. Some are lovers who learn that the person they shared a bed with has been lying for years. Some are leaders like Batista, carrying a graveyard in their chest, wondering how their supposedly heroic colleague keeps standing when better people keep falling. When you tally the damage, you do not just kill innocents. You erase careers, scramble moral compasses, and salt the earth of every relationship around you. And one day, that invisible wreckage will come for the person you claim to love most, in a way you can no longer outrun. And one day, that invisible wreckage does not just hit a colleague or a cop. It walks into your life with a soft accent, a poisonous smile, and a history that mirrors your own. Hannah McKay is not an innocent victim. She is a killer, a survivor of a murderous road trip with an older boyfriend, a woman who learned early that love and death can share the same bed. For the first time, you meet someone you do not have to pretend with. No mask, no fake hobbies, no carefully edited version of your urges. With Hannah, you can say the quiet part out loud, you need to kill, and you do not feel what other people feel. Imagine you were just born into a world where that honesty was possible from the beginning. How different would your family look? Hannah gives you a glimpse of that alternate life, one where your darkness is not a secret, just a fact. On the surface, it looks balanced. She poisons, you slice. She tends flowers, you process blood. As the years pass, you convince yourself that because she has her own body count, you are not dragging her down. You are just walking side by side. But your orbit is different. Your life is wired into police databases, vengeful killers, and a sister who is barely holding her sanity together. Hannah is not just dating a man with a dark past. She is stepping into a hurricane that never stops. Eventually, the consequences close in. Deb hates her. The law hunts her. Your enemies use her. Suddenly, Hannah is not a free woman making dangerous choices. She is a fugitive, dodging marshals, hiding on boats, slipping through airports under fake names because loving you painted a target on her back. This is the beginning of the end of any chance she had at a stable life. Then comes the cruelest twist. To save Harrison from the chaos you continue to create, you send him away with her. One day he is your son, the next he is her responsibility, in another country, off the grid. Hannah becomes an illegal caretaker in exile, raising a child who is not hers by blood, in a place where one slip means prison or worse. She is watching for cops instead of neighbors, predators instead of playdates. Is she innocent? No, but the version of her life where she is forever looking over her shoulder, managing your son's trauma, and living as a ghost in Argentina is not a direct result of her crimes. It is a consequence of loving you. And the final cut is off screen. Cancer takes her, quietly, leaving Harrison abandoned again, replaying your own childhood loss with a new dead mother figure and no father in sight. The curse continues, and the next body it circles back to is his. Because when Hannah dies, the only thing left of you in Harrison's life is the damage. With Hannah gone, on paper, he is exactly what the code is for. Track, confirm, kill, end of story. But as the years pass, you have changed. You are not just a weapon anymore. You are a father planning an escape route. You are trying to leave Miami with Hannah and Harrison to outrun the trail of blood you have laid down. So your hunt for Saxon is not just about the code. It is about tying up loose ends before you disappear. Every enemy must be neutralized, every threat erased, and that mindset makes everything more dangerous because you begin to believe you can close this chapter cleanly. You cannot. Your mother figure, Vogel, is fascinated by Saxon, your brother in darkness, and she underestimates him. He kills her in front of you, turning your own twisted family tree against you. Suddenly, the game is personal again. You chase him harder. You bend rules. You pull Deborah back into the storm after she has finally tried to step away from your world. Deb is working homicide again, trying to rebuild a life shredded by your secrets. Yet the second Saxon appears, she is right back where she always ends up, covering for you, chasing your enemies, cleaning up after the dark urges you refuse to surrender. One day, she goes to confront Saxon alone at a hospital, trying to arrest him, trying to end just one more mess so you can go play happy family somewhere else. He shoots her. A single round to the abdomen. She collapses, bleeding on the floor, still fighting, still reaching for her gun. At first, it looks survivable. Surgery, ICU, doctors say she is stable. You stand there thinking, maybe, for once, the people you love won't pay the ultimate price. Eventually, complications hit. A clot, a stroke. Dexter Morgan, the sister who raised you. The only person who ever saw both your darkness and your humanity is left in a vegetative state. No meaningful brain activity. No future. Just machines and memories. And the causal chain is brutally simple. Saxon is in her orbit because of you. She is in that hospital bed because she is still trying to protect you, to fix what you broke, to make your exit to Argentina possible. Her death is not random. It is a direct extension of your choice to keep killing and your choice to keep Saxon alive long enough to strike back. So you visit her one last time. You look at the woman who sacrificed her badge, her morality, her sanity for you. Then you make a decision no brother should ever make. You turn off the machines, take her off life support, and literally hold her life in your hands as you wheel her into the storm. The moral horror is not just that Deb dies. It is that, after everything, you are the one who finishes the job Saxon started. You stand in that hospital room, and suddenly the storm outside feels quieter than the storm in your chest. Machines hum and beep in a steady, indifferent rhythm. Tubes snake into Deborah's arms. A ventilator forces air into lungs that will never breathe on their own again. Her eyes are closed, her face soft in a way you almost never saw when she was awake. The woman who cursed, fought, and bled her way through life is reduced to stillness. You tell yourself, this is mercy. You tell yourself, your sister, the cop who lived for the chase, ending him. Her broken body in that bed is already a monument to your world. But when your hand reaches for the ventilator, something shifts. This is the beginning of the end of any claim that you only kill monsters. Until now, you could pretend there was distance. Trinity killed Rita. Liddy got himself stabbed. LaGuardia walked into the wrong shipping container. Collateral damage, tragic consequences of a necessary mission. But here, there is no buffer. No other killer to blame. When you unplug Deborah, you cross a line from indirect to direct responsibility. You become, in the most literal way, the instrument of an innocent woman's death. And you do not stop there. Eventually, you lift her from the bed, cradling her like your mother once cradled you, like your father never could. You wheel her past nurses and doctors fleeing the hurricane, wrapped in a shroud of chaos that hides your crime in plain sight. Then, you carry her onto your boat, the same boat you used for your rituals. The same ocean graveyard where you dumped body after body. You lower Deborah into the water like any other victim, and the image is almost unbearable. Your sister becomes another piece of evidence you dispose of. Family and kill ritual fuse until there is no difference between them. Any fantasy of you as a heroic monster, a necessary evil cleaning up the world, collapses the second your most loyal defender is treated like another trash bag of meat. Yet even here, in this ultimate horror, your story continues to sink lower. Because Deborah is not the last innocent life your existence will drown, you carry Deborah's body into the storm like a confession, and you decide the only way to stop this is to erase yourself. So you steer your boat straight into the hurricane, into chaos, into what looks like a deserved execution. The ocean swallows the Bay Harbor butcher. Your friends, your son, the entire city believes you are dead. Case closed. Curse ended. Except it isn't. Because one day the camera cuts, and there you are. Not a corpse. A bearded lumberjack in the middle of nowhere, hauling logs instead of bodies, staring into the distance like a ghost that refused to sink. You changed your name, your job, your scenery. You did not change what you are. In your head, the logic feels almost noble. If every mother, father, brother, and friend who gets close to you eventually bleeds, then the only moral move is to vanish. You tell yourself Harrison will be safer believing his father died a tragic hero in a storm than knowing the truth about your dark urges. You imagine him growing up with a clean story instead of a blood-soaked reality. On paper, it sounds like you finally did the unselfish thing. In practice, you just repeated the original sin of your family. Imagine you were just born, ripped away from your mother in that shipping container, abandoned in blood. Harrison is not in a pool of blood this time, but you still leave him behind, with a lie and a trauma no one can fully explain. You become Harry and Laura at once, the disappearing parents who think absence is protection. As the years pass, that choice rots in the background. Harrison is left to make sense of a dead father, a murdered mother, and a life built on half-truths. You know exactly what that does to a child, because it already made you. The curse doesn't end, it continues in a new that running away only stretches the rubber band. Harrison tracks you down in Iron Lake, carrying all the unanswered questions, all the inherited darkness you tried to outrun. Your exile didn't break the cycle, it just delayed the next innocent collision. The curse followed you, and now father and son have to decide whose story ends first. Dexter Morgan is supposed to be dead. That's the only way your story makes sense to you. Instead, you're in a fake name, fake town, fake life, and the one person you ran from so he could live walked straight through the front door of your lie. Harrison, taller, older eyes like your mother in that shipping container, and your brother in the blood. A teenager who crossed the country to find the father who abandoned him. He carries a backpack, a skateboard, and years of unanswered questions that press against you like a knife. You thought distance would dissolve the damage. It only concentrated it. You built everything in Iron Lake around one belief: you are poison. If you stay away, your son gets a normal family, a normal childhood, none of your dark urges. Imagine you were just born into that fantasy. No blood, no code, no legacy. But reality doesn't care about your self-imposed exile. One day, the very person you tried to save is standing in the snow, asking why you left him in a world that kept hurting him anyway. You let him in. Physically, into your cabin. Psychologically, into the sealed vault you've kept shut since Deb died. As the years pass in your mind, you replay every moment you weren't there: Rita's bathtub, Travis kidnapping him, Hannah on the run. You tell yourself you did the right thing by disappearing. Harrison's face says you didn't. That's the first crack. Then the second. His behavior. At school, he slices a bully's leg open with a straight razor, and the story he tells sounds disturbingly heroic. You listen to him describe the blood, the righteousness, the thrill. It's your childhood, but without Harry to name it. Violence follows him, and he doesn't just survive danger, he is drawn to it. Parties, drugs, reckless stunts, the constant flirtation with chaos. This is the beginning of the end of your denial that it was all environmental. Maybe this isn't just what happened to you. Maybe it's who you are, who he is. Genetic, neurological, a family curse passed from father to son like an invisible disease. You see your own young face in his anger, in the way he tests boundaries, in the way he stares a little too long at the idea of hurting people who deserve it. So you're trapped in Harry's old dilemma, only magnified. Do you connect, tell him the truth, and risk contaminating him further? Or do you keep lying, keep pretending, and leave him alone with urges he doesn't understand? Every conversation feels like a crime scene. Every fatherly gesture could be evidence. Eventually, you make the same choice Harry did. You begin to think the only way to keep Harrison from becoming a monster is to teach him how to be a controlled one. That decision is the central question of New Blood, and the next wave of innocent casualties is already lining up just off screen. So you try. You start doing for Harrison, to vigilante justice videos, to stories about people who deserve what they get. He talks about school shooters and bullies with a strange calm, as if violence is just another tool in the box. When blood appears, he doesn't flinch. He leans in. You recognize that comfort with bloodshed, that numbness, because it once kept you alive in a shipping container full of your mother's remains. Imagine you were just born into this family, carrying all that unspoken history in your DNA. You never saw Rita's body in the bathtub, but you were left screaming in her blood. You never chose to follow Hannah across the world, but her illness and constant running became your childhood. You never asked your father to vanish in the middle of the night, but abandonment is now the core of your personality. Harrison's trauma is not random. It is a direct echo of your choices, a chain reaction that began long before he could speak. So when he starts confessing his own dark urges, you feel the most dangerous thing of all: recognition. The same anger, the same emptiness, the same potential fork in the road, where one path leads to becoming a killer and the other demands a miracle of self-control. This is the beginning of the end, because you know how rarely that miracle comes. You want to be honest with him. You want to warn him, to guide him, to say, yes, there is something wrong with you, but there is also a way to live with it. Yet every word risks dragging him deeper into the world you tried to escape. If you explain the code, you are handing him a blueprint. If you stay silent, you leave him alone with a storm in his head. Eventually, you realize something brutal. Even if Harrison never kills anyone, the damage is already done. The fact that he has to wrestle with this darkness at all is another innocent casualty on your tally. His mind is part of the body count. And in Iron Lake, when Harrison finally turns that darkness back on you, the question becomes terrifyingly simple. How many more innocent pieces of him are you willing to sacrifice to keep your own monster alive? And in Iron Lake, that question stops being hypothetical. You run. You fake a new name. You pretend the monster is gone. But the second you give in to those urges again, every innocent person around you is back on the chopping block, whether they know it or not. You begin your new life as Jim Lindsay. Hiding in the snow like that will bury your past. Then Matt Caldwell walks into your quiet routine, drunk, entitled, bragging about a boating accident that killed innocent people. You tell yourself, this is a righteous exception, a one-time relapse. You take him to the woods. Knife, plastic, blood in the snow. Suddenly, Iron Lake is no longer a peaceful town. It is another crime scene, orbiting your secret. As the years pass, you should have learned that one body is never just one body for you. Matt's disappearance pulls in his father, Kurt Caldwell, a man whose darkness has been thriving here long before you arrived. By targeting Kurt next, you are not just stopping a serial predator. You are restarting the cycle. Lies to your girlfriend, fake alibis, late-night drives. The same pattern that destroyed your family in Miami, now echoing under the northern lights. Kurt's secret bunker of embalmed, kidnapped girls the moment she starts investigating you instead of just loving you. This is the beginning of the end for any chance at a normal future. And Audrey, her daughter, is caught between you and Harrison, between a mother who senses danger and a boy who carries your same dark urges. She rides in the same truck where you teach Harrison to track blood. She goes to the same party where Harrison nearly kills a bully. She is standing in the blast radius of your generational curse without ever choosing it. Imagine you were just born in Iron Lake, just another kid, just another neighbor. You think the worst thing that can happen is a winter storm knocking out the power. Then two hidden serial killers collide in your backyard, and your police chief is suddenly chasing ghosts from Miami. Eventually, that is the pattern you cannot escape. New town, new name, same outcome. Wherever you go, innocent people end up traumatized, endangered, or dead. Because your dark passenger does not retire. It just waits for fresh snow to stain. So when Angela Bishop walks into your life, it feels like the universe finally sent you the one thing you never really had. A good cop who also wants a family. Iron Lake's police chief is not a bumbling Miami detective. She is competent, compassionate, and actually loved the quiet guy named Jim Lindsay, who stacked shelves, chopped wood, and made her daughter hot chocolate. On paper, she is everything the justice system pretends to be. She cares about missing girls nobody else will touch. She protects her town, and she opens her home to you. You become the boyfriend, the father figure, the safe presence in her kitchen. As the years pass in Iron Lake, you almost believe this new name can erase all the blood behind it. Then her real work begins to brush up against your lies. Angela's investigation into the missing Indigenous girls and Kurt Caldwell's truck stop empire is supposed to be a local nightmare, not a portal back to Miami. But evidence keeps slipping through her fingers in ways that make no sense. A suspicious overdose here, a conveniently dead drug dealer there. You continue to clean up your own messes, and she continues to feel the itch that something is off with Jim. One day, a simple clue detonates her reality. A photo, a record, a line in an old database. Jim Lindsay has no past that holds up. Dexter Morgan does. Suddenly she is reading about the Bay Harbor butcher, about a blood spatter analyst whose colleagues died, whose wife was murdered, whose brother was a serial killer. This is the beginning of the end for her image of you as the safe man in her bed. The betrayal is not abstract. Angela realizes the man she trusted to drive her daughter to school, to watch over Audrey during a winter storm, is the same man suspected of being a monster in Miami. Your dark urges were sitting at her dinner table. Her sense of judgment shatters. If she could miss something this big, what else has she been blind to? Professionally, confronting you is almost suicidal. She is a small-town chief accusing a supposedly dead forensic tech of being a legendary serial killer in another state. No body. No conviction. A cold case that federal agencies already buried. If she pushes too hard, she risks her badge, her credibility, even her physical safety, standing alone in a cell block with you. What happens if you decide she is just another loose end? Yet, Angela comes with a cost Harrison will have to carry next. Harrison carries that cost straight into the snow, into the night where your whole life finally catches up with you. The mask is gone. The careful lies are shredded. Angela has connected the Bay Harbor butcher to the quiet Jim Lindsay. And your son has just watched you murder an innocent man in a holding cell. Not a killer. A cop. Logan, a father. In that moment, there is no code left to hide behind. No heroic narrative to cling to. Harrison sees the pattern you have spent years refusing to see. Every town, every relationship, every new beginning ends the same way. Blood on the floor. A body on your table. Or in this case, on a concrete jailhouse slab with a broken neck and a bullet that never should have been fired. You drive into the woods with Harrison, and suddenly the truck feels smaller than any kill room you ever built. His questions cut deeper than any knife. Why Logan? Why the lies? Why does your need to kill always come before your family? As the years pass, in a single conversation, Harrison forces you to look at the trail behind you. Rita in the bathtub, Deb in that hospital bed, your mother in the shipping container, your brother on the floor of that cabin. Every innocent person whose life bent or broke because of your urges. For the first time, you stop arguing. You stop performing the role of the misunderstood monster who only preys on the wicked. Imagine you were just born again in that snow, stripped of legend and justification, just a man who keeps making excuses while other people die. This is the beginning of the end, not because Angela is closing in, but because you finally accept that the real prison is you. So you push him. You take Harrison's gun and place it back in his hands. You tell him that the only way to stop the cycle is to kill you. No more running. No more new towns. No more pretending he can inherit your darkness and somehow do it better. You frame your death as mercy, as a twisted act of love from father to son. The last lesson Harry never taught. Sometimes the monster has to die. But what are you in that final second? Is there any innocence left? Or are you only the sum of every body, every lie, every ruined life? Your death feels less like a tragedy and more like gravity finally doing its job. Yet the punchline is cruel. To free the world from you, Harrison has to become a killer. A kid who wanted a father leaves as an executioner, his innocence bleeding into the snow beside your body. And as he walks away from you, from Angela, from Iron Lake, the real question isn't whether you deserve to die, but what your death has already started to do to him next. You leave Harrison in the snow, but his bullet doesn't erase the damage behind you. It just draws a line under a long, ugly ledger. For someone who swears to never kill innocents, your life is stacked with innocent bodies that only exist on the slab because you existed at all. Imagine you were just born, sitting in that shipping container, your mother's blood soaking into your clothes. Laura Moser is the first innocent on your tab. She dies because she trusted the wrong criminals, but the fallout brands you forever. Her murder doesn't just create your dark urges, it creates a lifetime of people who will pay for how you learned to survive. As the years pass, you handed her the match. La is the same poisoned equation. She follows the truth. She connects you to the bags, the slides, the docks. Deborah pulls the trigger, but only because you corner her into an impossible choice: your brother, or her badge, or an innocent woman's life. This is the beginning of the end for Deb. Her corruption starts there, in that shipping yard, and eventually it swallows her. Deborah's final body is the one you do kill with your own hands, not with a knife, but with a quiet, clinical decision to turn off life support after a bullet she only takes because she's covering for you yet again. You hold her, you unplug her, you carry her into the storm like a trophy you never wanted. Around them, the walking wounded. Astor and Cody, abandoned into a world where their mother was murdered in a bathtub and their stepfather vanished. Harrison, baptized in 2 different pools of blood, condemned to lifelong trauma before he can spell the word. Quinn and Batista, careers bent and stained by cases that never make sense, because the real answer is you. Angela, whose trust you shatter so completely she has to weaponize your own son against you. Random bystanders kidnapped, threatened, almost killed by the killers who only crossed their path because you needed another night on the table. One day you have to ask, if you tally every innocent life damaged, every career derailed, every child broken, does your code actually protect the world? Or is it just a bedtime story you tell yourself so you can continue killing and still sleep? And if it destroys so many people around you, what does that say about what it's doing to you on the inside? Dexter Morgan looks like the fantasy, total control, perfect cover, monsters on your table. But if you actually lived in his skin, you would realize something brutal. Being Dexter is not a power trip. It is a life sentence. Starting with one of the craziest truths: you never get to be a whole person. You are born in blood, literally sitting in a pool of your mother's remains, listening to your brother scream. Imagine you were just born, and the first thing the universe hands you is a massacre. That isn't an origin story. That is a curse stamped into your nervous system before you can speak. As the years pass, you are adopted into a loving family, but even that is compromised. Your father doesn't take you to therapy. He takes you to crime scenes. He doesn't say you are hurting. You are traumatized. He says you have dark urges. So here is a code. Never get caught. Never kill innocents. On paper, it sounds like structure. In practice, it means your entire childhood is training to become a high-functioning monster. You grow up fluent in 2 languages, fake normal and ritual murder. You begin to date, to marry, to play with your son, but you never tell anyone who you are. You cannot. Every hug has a secret inside it. Every I love you comes with an asterisk you can never say out loud, as long as you never find out what I do at night. From the outside, viewers envy the confidence. You stalk predators, you punish abusers, you clean up what the justice system misses. But from the inside, it is loses her career, then her life, all because you let your enemies live long enough to shoot her. Your son, Harrison, inherits your darkness and your enemies. He watches you attract Kurt, Angela's suspicion, and a trail of bodies into his new town. One day, your story ends exactly where it was always heading. Your child kills you. Not a rival, not the law, but the person you were trying to protect by lying to everyone else. That is not a badass vigilante arc. That is a slow-motion disaster for anyone unlucky enough to love you. And the most terrifying part is that deep down, you always knew it would end this way. And yet, even after your death, the question lingers: what does someone like Harrison do with a legacy like that. Because when you look at Harrison standing there, holding the gun, you're forced into the ugliest question of all. Are you actually any better than the monsters you hunt? Or did you just dress your darkness in cleaner language? On paper, you seem righteous. Your code says you only kill killers. Trinity, Brian, Miguel, Saxon, all the human predators who stalk mothers, fathers, and children in the dark. They target innocents. You target them. Simple, clean, but then you look at your own innocent body count, and suddenly that moral math begins to fall apart. Imagine you were just born into this world like Harrison, with no idea that your father has already signed a death warrant for your future. Rita never tortured anyone. She just wanted a family, a safe home, a chance to heal. Trinity doesn't find her by accident. He finds her because you insert yourself into his life, shadow his movements, provoke him, and keep him free long enough to retaliate. Her blood is on Trinity's hands. But the door to that bathroom? You opened it. As the years pass, that pattern continues. Deb is almost murdered by your brother because you cannot face your own origin. LaGuerta dies because you convinced Deb to pull the trigger instead of letting the system expose you. A hospital full of people watches your sister slowly fade after a bullet from a killer you chose to spare earlier. You are not the one who fires every shot, yet your choices keep loading the gun. So, you tell yourself intent matters. Trinity wants to destroy families. You want to protect them. You never mean for innocents to die, but you keep choosing the hunt over honesty, the code over confession, the thrill over safety. Eventually, when every road you take leads back to another dead friend, another broken lover, how much comfort is intent really worth? You are not ignorant. From the moment your mother dies in that shipping container, from the moment Harry looks at you and sees the urges, you know you are dangerous. This is the beginning of the end, and still you build a family. You bring Harrison into the same orbit that killed Rita. You keep working in a police station, surrounded by people who trust you, people who will become collateral the second your secret cracks. One day, you could have turned yourself in. You could have followed Harry's first instinct and begged for institutional help. You could have refused to marry, refused to have a child, refused to let anyone love you. In those alternate timelines, how many people wake up the next morning alive, simply because you chose not to be there? Maybe that's the real horror. You are both victim and villain, both sympathetic and unforgivable, and Harrison is left holding that contract to this kind of nightmare, early developmental trauma. It rewires your nervous system. It teaches your tiny brain that love disappears, that safety is a lie, that numbness is the only way to survive. As the years pass, that numbness hardens. In real life, it might look like addiction, self-harm, workaholism, or an endless string of shallow relationships. In your case, it becomes homicidal urges and a dark passenger. But the pattern is the same. You feel broken, you can't connect, you keep searching for something intense enough to make you feel alive for 5 minutes. Here's the pattern interrupt. Understanding this doesn't let you off the hook. Trauma is an explanation, not an excuse. You can understand why you stalked Trinity and still admit that Rita dies because of you. You can feel sympathy for the boy in the shipping container and still say the man he becomes destroys Deborah's life, step by step, until she is lying on that hospital bed with no future. Harry's code tries to cheat that reality. Instead of healing the wound, your adoptive father builds a fence around it. Don't get caught. Don't kill innocents. Channel the urges. On paper, it sounds almost noble. In practice, it's like putting a leash on a rabid dog and walking it through a crowded playground. The danger doesn't disappear, it just shifts. Onto Rita, onto Deb, onto Harrison. That's the danger of managed darkness in any family. You tell yourself you can control it. You'll drink, but only at home. You'll lie, but only about small things. You'll keep your rage limited to the car, the gym, the internet. Eventually, it spills. Partners get hurt. Children absorb the tension. Coworkers feel the fallout. The people who never agreed to your secret war are the ones catching the shrapnel. Dexter's life is a cautionary tale about what happens when you refuse to face your own shadow honestly. Every time you postpone responsibility, someone else pays interest. One day, it is a wife in a bathtub. Another day, it is a sister pulling a trigger she never should have touched. This is the beginning of the end for anyone who believes their darkness is under control, because in your world and in ours, the bill always comes due. The only real question is who ends up paying it next. So when that bill finally arrives, it doesn't come as a single number. It comes as images you can't erase. Rita, in that bathtub, her blood echoing the shipping container your mother died in. Dokes, not just a rival cop, but a man who saw the truth and got a cabin blown sky high for it. La Guerta, left on the dock like one of your trophies, except she never fit the code. Then, Deborah, alone in a hospital bed, machines doing the work her body can't continue. A stroke, a plug pulled, a burial at sea she never asked for. Harrison, standing in the middle of all of this, a child who watched his own mother's blood soak him, then grew into a teenager who can't tell where your urges end and his begin. Around them, the walking wounded, Quinn drowning himself in alcohol and guilt, Batista staring at old case files, Angela trying to be a good mother and a good cop while loving a man who is lying about everything. As the years pass, you can pretend this is all an accident of birth. Imagine you were just born in a pool of blood. Your face, it stops looking like bad luck and starts looking like gravity. You can feel empathy for the child in the blood, for the boy your adoptive father trained instead of treated. You can even feel for the man on the table, begging his victims to admit they deserve this, so you can feel like you are saving someone, somewhere. But those feelings don't erase Rita's terror, Dokes' last second of realization, LaGuerta's disbelief, Deborah's slow unraveling. Empathy doesn't scrub innocent blood off your hands. It just makes the stain harder to live with. One day you imagine a different ending. Harrison safe, Hannah alive, you grilling in some quiet backyard. No plastic wrap, no knives. But the structure of your life never allows it. Every attempt at normalcy is built on lies, and lies attract pressure, and pressure exposes the bodies. There is no version of this story where you get a happy family and a clean conscience. This is the beginning of the end for that fantasy, the moment you take your first life. So after everything, how do you see this man now? Tragic anti-hero, irredeemable villain, or something much messier, trapped between birth and choice? Because the final verdict might say more about your darkness than his. So now it turns back on you. After watching every innocent person who gets pulled into this man's orbit and never walks out, which death actually cuts the deepest for you? Imagine you were just born into Dexter's world as one of these people, and ask yourself whose fate you would least want to inherit. Maybe it begins with Rita for you. A mother, a survivor, a woman who only ever wanted a safe home for her children. She believes she's finally escaped the chaos of her past, only to end up in that bathtub, surrounded by her own blood, because Dexter needed to play cat and mouse with Trinity a little longer. You can tell yourself Trinity killed her, but you also know why he ever got that close to your family. As the years pass in the story, Deborah's death can feel even worse. The one person who keeps choosing you over and over until she has nothing left. She murders Lagerda to protect you, shatters her own moral compass, spirals into addiction, and eventually dies in a hospital bed because of a killer you chose to spare. Then, you roll her into the ocean like one of your victims. You call it mercy. It looks like erasure. Or maybe your line was crossed long before that. Maybe it was Dokes, the one honest cop who actually saw you clearly. He dies in a cabin explosion, framed as the Bay Harbor butcher, because your dark urges needed a scapegoat. Lagerta follows, chasing the truth that Harry's code promised would never touch innocence. Suddenly, the never kill the innocent rule looks more like a technicality than a principle. So here's your moral verdict. Was there a specific moment where Dexter stopped feeling like a tragic anti-hero and started feeling like the real villain of his own story? Was it Rita's body in the tub, Deb's hand pulling the trigger on LaGuerta, Dokes burning? Or some quiet extra you barely remember who still died because Dexter needed another night on the table? In the comments, continue this autopsy. Rank the most unforgivable collateral deaths. Talk about whose blood